Hey there, I'm Jackie Ferris. This week on the 302, we are at Winterthur, where we're checking out a new exhibit called Transformations, basically drawing inspiration from classics and making them more modern and turning them into beautiful pieces of art. Get ready, the 302 is straight ahead. Hey everybody, we are at Winterthur checking out one of the new exhibits called Transformations, and you're really going to love it. We've got Catherine Dan Rober here to kind of take us on a walking tour. Catherine, thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks for coming today.
So let's talk about the concept. It really is a cool concept of taking items in the collection and just going from there. Tell me all about it.
Yeah, well, we have a Maker Creator Fellowship program here where people are coming specifically to look at our garden, museum, library collections and be inspired for their own work, which could be music, prints, textiles, so many different things. And we had the idea early on when we started that program in 2017, wouldn't it be great to have a big exhibit that celebrates what comes out of this fellowship program? So many of the people here, over 30 artists that are represented, have gone through that program and others have not. They've just come here, they're really familiar, they've spent time with staff, with collections, and they became inspired to create all of the work that you see on display here, as well as in the house.
So let's talk a little bit about the items and the displays that are here. If you look up, there's this amazing, are those seed bags?
They are. We have in our collections a handful of, well, more than a handful of seed bags from Pennsylvania German communities here right in the neighboring state. And we had Jennifer Steverson come, who was really interested in the idea of how people connect with their family members, connect with the land in the past and today. Her family also worked the land in previous times, and she really wanted to connect through her own art with that. She looked at our seed bags. She created natural dyes from things that she collected on the property here, and then she created her own version of seed bags called Mojo bags.
Okay.
They each hold seeds and beads and other things that are meaningful to her to celebrate and think about the agricultural past in her own family and our relationship to sort of the land today.
Sure. So I like the concept that they're hanging from the wall, kind of like, I don't know if they're ascending to heaven or what the situation is, but do you know why she chose to do that?
She really wanted them to be something that surrounded people or that they could have around them rather than sort of locked up in a case. She felt like that would allow the airflow to have them move, to people to be able to get up close without touching them, of course, to be able to really interact with them and have them almost have that life force that she sees as being inside each of them.
A slight motion. And when you walk up, there's a display case and there's like the checkerboard quilt. Yeah. Tell me about the history of the quilt. That's your piece, right?
All of the things in the case are our pieces, and that checkerboard mini quilt is actually a bag. That's a big bag that holds the smaller seed bags that are made from all these different cool printed fabrics. And on their own right, they're interesting for people who have an interest in textiles or quilting, but Jennifer really looked at those again to be inspired by some of the colors that then she used in her natural dyeing.
Yeah, so the bag itself, was that something that Mr. DuPont or one of his workers used when planting some of the many varieties of plants on the property?
So this is actually something that the museum acquired in the not too distant past by someone who is one of the major collectors of things associated with people of Pennsylvania German background. And these thousands of things came as a gift to Winterthur. And this is one collection, the seed bags and those quilted bags that are associated with it. There were pillowcases and samplers. So these have actually gotten attention for really in the most serious way the first time through the work that people like Jennifer have been doing.
That's really awesome.
Yeah.
One of the other things that I wanted to mention is the display next to this has, you can interact with it. You can move the pieces.
Plant some radishes.
Yeah, so tell me, what was the artist thinking in terms of that inspiration, and what message are they trying to sell?
Yeah, so Dan Feinberg from Berea works with a team of people here in Berea, in other places. All of his artwork, he has a background in sculpture, uses the environment and ideas of pattern and playing with pattern to draw attention to environmental issues. Here, we planted radishes with these patterns inspired by rugs and floors at Winterthur to draw attention to overpaving and soil quality. And so while he knows that this is not going to solve the problems by planting in a pattern in a few patches at Winterthur, the hope is that people will pause and think and read about the project and be inspired to maybe just think more about how we can all help the earth.
And the images, those are images of Winterthur, is that right?
Yes, so this project has actually been going on for over 3 years. Cycles of planting of these tillage radishes, which look like large daikon radishes.
Okay.
They break up the soil, they break up the earth, and our pictures show things like toads who've made homes in these, bugs, the different stages of the growth of the radishes, because we've documented almost every day the growth of those radishes over a number of times to be able to come up with the computer-generated AI versions of, I call them radish avatars growing.
Yeah, it's amazing that, it's art here, but it's actually something practical that's happening on the grounds.
Very much so. His art is not for art's sake. His art has a purpose behind it.
Yeah.
And these are areas that we paved for a reason in the past, but actually we don't need them anymore. We'd rather have that soil be healthier. And so through art and thinking about stewardship of the land here at Winterthur, we've been able to really join into a fun project.
That's really fascinating, and I know that there's so much more. And when we come back, you're going to see more of this exhibit. Catherine, let's go check it out.
Okay, let's go.
I'm Amelia Wiggins at the Delaware Art Museum. Be inspired by the 302.
So Catherine, this exhibit is amazing. Oh my gosh, what is this?
So what you're looking at over there is a project called the Womb Chair Speaks Project. Kieran Mocker, who teaches at Hobart William Smith College in New York, works collaboratively with students and some of her peers to work with this iconic mid-century form of what was called the womb chair, because a man saw a pregnant woman sitting in a chair and thought she sort of matched the look of that chair. So this became an iconic thing that people had in mid-century offices, but Kieran, with all her teammates, are really working on this and sewing onto the chair and thinking about it with that idea of womb as thinking about women's health initiatives, and as a way to come together to sew onto this chair to talk about things that are important in women's health issues today.
It's really amazing when you look at, are they flowers or what exactly are those?
She calls them puffs.
Okay.
And there will be workshops with people actively sewing onto this very chair happening throughout the fall, including if visitors want to come in November 16th, they can see people sewing onto this chair and making some of those puffs. And there are also roses that are on there.
That's amazing. And I know that there's the clothesline with the, it looks like drawings, letters, poems. Talk to me a little bit, is that like the rendering or?
Yeah, so it's both some of the historical pieces, like magazine covers that showed this chair in the mid-century time period, like 1950s, 1960s, but also some of Kieran's own sketches for imagining this work. So we've got renderings of the puffs, of the flowers, of the chair itself, how she sees it fitting into a room where she's had it displayed before.
Absolutely, and there is a glass case here. Is that part of this, or does it kind of play off of it?
Yeah, so in many of the sections here, we have Winterthur collections that the artists themselves looked at when they were here that helped inspire their work. So that particular glass case has things that deal with women's health issues and motherhood.
It's interesting that the dish looks like something that would be on a doctor's office wall.
Yeah, it's a medical diagram that was then, for some reason, put onto a Chinese export porcelain plate in the 18th century. So in the 1700s, someone decided that this would be a good idea.
That's like doctors are like, oh, I want to see anatomy in all of my dishes.
Well, it was an art form of those medical renderings. We sort of take it for granted now because we've all seen our textbooks in biology class. But at the time, that was kind of a new practice to actually be doing pictures of dissections and other things.
Yeah, but on your tea service, that's a little wild.
It is wild, and it's a crowd favorite, although some people go ew when they see it, but we have, people really interested in seeing this. It's unusual.
Is that a pipe?
It's actually a breast glass. So what that means is, people today, mothers, some of them use breast pumps. That's an old-fashioned version of that.
Oh, wow, that does not look comfortable.
You never know.
Oh my goodness. So I want to ask you about the display with all of the figurines. Tell me, that's directly behind us.
Yeah, so that's Joey Quinones, and she teaches at Cranbrook, which is an amazing art school in Michigan. And her work really looks at some of our most objects that we've looked at as beautiful things that are made in the 1700s that were commemorating world trade and engagement with people around the world. But she's looking at them and saying, while we can appreciate how beautiful they are and how interesting they are, they also have more complex histories. And so their work is really engaging with that and saying, how can I look at this amazing craftsmanship, use my own artistry, and respond to some of those parts of the past that we wrestle with all the time.
World trade at a time when human beings were a commodity.
Yeah, enslavement is at the heart of some of the things she's responding to, how we are left with some of the histories of enslavement in our very fabric of the world today.
When you look at it, it really is a work of art because it's very pleasing. It's a beautiful setup. It's got all the dishes and everything, but I mean, it's kind of like double-edged. It's beautiful, but it tells so much about the dark history. Tell me about the history of the platters. Are those platters that are?
They are platters. So again, those are Joey's work, and looking at the ceramics here in Winterthur's collection to again use ceramics as almost like a platform, like rather than doing a painting on a canvas, using ceramic as the medium.
And the hand. What is up with the hand?
The hand is, once again, a lot of Joey's work thinks about bodies and black bodies and ideas of beauty and what we've valued or not valued. So that black hand, it has some pretty fierce nails on it. And again, celebrating people who maybe weren't celebrated through sculpture or art or ceramics in the past, bringing that into their work to really showcase beauty that we should be celebrating.
That's amazing. And there's so much more. So we're going to go for a stroll. When we come back, we're going to show you some great stuff. Stay with us. Let's check it out.
I'm Justin Day from Jessup's Tavern, and I love the vittles on the 302.
Right on. So welcome back, everybody. Catherine, what do we have here?
Well, we are looking at what we call the Bandbox Collective. So this is a group of artists who worked with their now colleague, but former professor, Andrew Raftery, who teaches up at Rhode Island School of Design. He was here and really thought these boxes, which are hat or band boxes, were so cool. They're covered with printed wallpapers and other things. Winterthur, we have 4 examples of our pretty extensive collection in here just to show what we have. But he then worked with this group of people. They each made 2 custom band boxes to what they had in their imagination and put their own prints on each of those boxes. And in order then to show people like, what are these boxes? We worked with another artist, Judith Slodkin, who not only is a really famous printmaker, but also makes her own hats for all the parties and gallery openings she goes to. So she gave us a free choice of hundreds of hats, and we picked 3 to showcase, just help tell that story about how these amazing boxes are used.
I really think it's amazing how every single item in the show has so much meaning and so much layers in terms of, what it represents and what it inspires. But, I want to check out the rest of the things in the show.
Let's go. So many of the things that we have are professional artists, but everyone can be engaged as a creative maker.
Yeah.
This table, for instance, was made by a girl at home, probably with her family in the 1800s. And our artist, Lauren Adams, she created the wallpaper based on that.
Oh, wow. So what's up with all of these jars?
So these jars, there are about 100 of them here, were made by a pair of people. So Omar Tate, who runs Honeysuckle Provisions, is a chef artist in Philadelphia who partners with Greg Moore, who's a ceramicist, teaches at Arcadia University just outside of Philly. They're really inspired by histories of food. Like, food is something we all eat, we all drink water and have experience of water, but that can mean really different things to individuals or communities. So they were really particularly interested in how, foodways history of Black communities. And Omar came up with the idea of really wanting to look at Winterthur's collections of ceramics made by Black makers, and also began to realize that oysters, which were part of so many people's diets in the past, were also harvested by Black people engaged with the waterways, and he wanted to commemorate that. And so they made these 100 oyster jars.
Wow.
They all have words on the jars that are based on interviews Omar did with people in his West Philadelphia community about what do they think about when they think about water? What do they think about when they think about oysters? And so it's a take on looking at something that's a historical thing here at Winterthur, but taken very much into a modern world with this collaborative project that involves students and Omar and Greg creating these ceramics, creating ceramic oyster shells, and that all of these works really just, again, think about what does food mean to us today and in the past.
So, and when you say oyster shells, that's what we see at the bottom.
Yeah, underneath the table these are made out of ceramics. So Greg creates his own mixtures of ceramics tied to a color that was inspired by ceramics. And, every little detail is planned, and they created these not that long before this exhibit opened. Wow. All these ideas were simmering in their heads. It's really fresh.
Absolutely.
Which is a good thing with oysters.
So this exhibit is amazing in all the layers that it has, but it is actually inspiring what's happening for Yuletide, right?
Yes. So this is we have artists represented in the house, and in the rooms where we don't have artists, staff members are taking inspiration from these creative works to fill the house with what everyone loves at Yuletide, but with a really sort of creative flair this year.
Well, we're going to have to come back and check it out. Catherine, thank you so much for taking us on this guided tour. We all appreciate it, and we will see you at Yuletide.
Wonderful. Looking forward to it. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. We'll be right back. Isn't this exhibit amazing? Well, if you come for a visit, make sure you snap a picture and share it with us on Facebook. Now, here are a couple of other things you might want to check out. For more information on transformations or any of the exhibits and activities at Winterthur, visit winterthur.org. That'll do it for this week's episode of the 302. Make sure you follow us on Facebook, where you can get behind the scenes content you're just not going to get anywhere else. We're going to leave you now with a beautiful shot of a Japanese maple on the Winterthur property that's actually an inspiration for a suite of music included in the Transformations display. And you can see it by visiting our Facebook page. Until next time, I'm Jackie Ferris. Tell them you saw it on the 302.